Let's talk a little bit about stacking overdrives. In this example, I'm using a Moxie and a bell. And the reason why you might want to stack overdrives is because it gives different textures, it gives different sounds as well, but also different textures. So the pedal by itself is going to, if you turn the gain all the way up, it has a particular sound, of course, but it's not the same as adding two of them together. We kind of refer stacking, it's kind of a loose term that just really means having two like dirt pedals on at the same time. Or it could be a boost and an overdrive, or distortion and an overdrive, or fuzz and an overdrive, whatever. Basically, two gain-based pedals on at the same time in such a way that they kind of add up and create one unique tone. Sort of a reason for doing this is because when you're designing pedals, you're kind of using building blocks, so to speak. So this type of gain stage into this type of gain stage, into this type of tone control, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, you can kind of do that just by adding different pedals together, kind of, sort of. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's start out with the Moxie. I've got it on a pretty basic setting. I'm going to turn the gain all the way up, though, just so you can kind of get an idea of what it sounds like, and I'll do the same thing for the bell. So it's basically like a TS-10 sort of thing, a tube screamer type of thing in this particular setting. Of course, the switches do different things as well, but I have it in like the basic setting here. There's something to keep in mind when you're stacking pedals, even though you may like both of the pedals that with the gain in the certain positions, a lot of times when you combine them together, you have to adjust different things. That could be EQ, that could be volume, that could be gain, it could be a lot of different things. All that stuff is going to change the way it sounds. And as far as which one goes into the other, there's really no right way to do it. It really depends on what you want, what you like. So we'll try it both ways with these two different pedals. First of all, if I'm stacking, I really want the volume to be about unity volume, meaning when the pedal's on, it's about the same volume as when the pedal's off. And I want to do that really for both. And generally, I'm not going to have the gains up all the way. It'll be really noisy. I'll show you that what I mean. It'll be really noisy and generally won't give you the best results. Keep in mind, these are not super high gain pedals, but you can still probably hear a little bit of hiss. So I have the Moxie set up about average. But just a good, meaty, mid-rangey sort of tone. I have the bell set up so it's not super dirty. Together, though. Now, as I said, everything is going to affect the final outcome. So let me turn the gain all the way up on the Moxie. So that's the gain all the way up. Let me do the opposite. Let me turn the gain down so it's actually pretty low gain. It's a little bit of grit right there. We're going to roll this volume up and see what happens when we drive it with more signal. So that gives a different sound still yet. And then what happens if we start messing with the tone control? Right now, I'm going to kind of get it back to the settings I had it to begin with. So from here, you might actually want to start changing the tone control settings on the pedal that comes after it. Just depending. These are all things that you kind of, as you tweak one thing, you may have to change another. Now let's turn that tone control back. Another thing that you may want to keep in mind when the pedal that comes after that first pedal, so in this case, the bell, when the last pedal that is stacked together, if it has more EQ options, sometimes that can be better because you can tweak the overall EQ a little more. Basically, whenever you have whenever you start adjusting EQ before a lot of gain, you do change the EQ, but you're really affecting how everything is clipping and compressing and distorting quite a bit. And that's really helpful in some situations. Other situations, you just want more bass. You don't necessarily want to make it fuzzy, which is what happens when you add more bass before clipping, you get fuzz. So that is something you can keep in mind as well. Again, here's my bass control. I'll show you what I mean. And then turning up the gain on the second pedal, that gives a whole different result. I'll try it first with just the bell, then I'll turn on the Moxie. Completely different tones. Let's swap the order. Okay, same settings, but the order's just switched. Now let's mess with the bass a little bit, because the bass, like I said, is going to change the way things compress, the way they distort, the way it really feels underneath your fingers. So I'll turn that bass all the way up, and we'll try it again. So as you can see, it gets a little more chewy right there. Not quite fuzz, but it gets a little bit of chewiness, which is kind of the beginnings of the fuzz, just because that's kind of the way the clipping works. Now we're going to dial this bass back to somewhat a neutral sound, and we're going to see what happens whenever we change the gains and the volumes on stuff in this situation. So what is happening here? Why does it sound so woofy and a lot of the clean signals coming through? It's due to the type of circuit that the tube screamer is. There's so much clean signal here that it's, in the way the gain structure works in this type of circuit, it's giving you a lot of the clean signal on with a little bit of overdrive on top. Now, normally, whenever you're not pushing a big, clean boost into a tube screamer, you don't have that sort of thing. It's also why when you have really hot output, really hot pickups that give a loud signal, a very hot signal, Well, sometimes tube screamers just sound kind of trashy that way because it's so much signal, you get a lot of that clean tone underneath, which is why with a lot of tube screamer based circuits and the type of gain stages they have, generally single coils seem like they don't have as much of that clean signal underneath. And you'll notice it more, like we just saw, whenever you push a boost in front of that, giving it more clean signal. So let's try something else here. Turn everything back to about where it was. And you notice I was messing with the volume here because as I was turning up this pedal, it was so loud, I had to kind of compensate with the other pedal. So let's try things a little different here. Turn some gain up, some bass down. And that's the basics of stacking with two overdrives. Now, keep in mind, the Moxie, pretty mid-range heavy type pedal because it's based on that tube screamer type circuit. The Bell, based on like a Noble's ODR1, which is fairly neutral, not exactly completely neutral, but fairly neutral comparatively, not a big, huge mid-hump or anything. And again, we saw when we switched the order, kind of gives us a completely different tone altogether. And kind of to recap a little bit, the controls, the volume and the gains, and the EQ, all that stuff, especially coming before your last pedal that's on, that's really going to influence a lot of how like muddy it sounds, if it's too woofy, if it feels a little bit too spongy. Again, depending what type of circuit it is, maybe there's too much clean tone and it just sounds like trash. So all those things are to keep in mind. If you do have that too much of that clean signal coming through, just turn the volume down. You can turn it down less than unity and turn the gain up and still get pretty cool tones. In fact, we'll do that right now. All right, hope that helped you. Hope you enjoyed the video and check out some more of these member videos and we'll dive into some more stuff. As always, make sure you shoot me an email, contact me in some way if there's topics that you want to see that I haven't touched on yet. Thanks for watching.